Aphoristic Appendage to On Truthtelling. 851-900. 851. Are there times you feel like running away from it all? Well, wait long enough, and that moment of escape will come. It's guaranteed. 852. Most people are not so much ashamed of having dirty thoughts and habits as having them found out and, what's worse, spelled out. 853. Some queek, when it comes to comparing one's worth and capabilities to others, context is everything. 854. When a TV journalist or commentator is forced to keep one eye on the ratings and the other on giving honest coverage, he's bound to become a bit cross-eyed. 855. Thank God for being at least a trifle vain in all those areas we do well in. For how else could we suffer all those areas in which we do badly? 856. If we were wholly aware of how much we're influenced by those around us, particularly those in the majority, we would perhaps lose all faith in a free will. 857. It's a common enough view that, morally speaking, we have the appropriate values and sensibilities not only for now but for all time. 858. An aphorism never wills itself to come into being but only to come into being well. 859. When we speak of the truth or, more properly, what we consider to be the truth, we can be caught up in things that could be just as easily associated with falsehood, fear, love, hate, ignorance, pride, and so on. 860. Truth or, to be more precise, what is called the truth at any particular time is valuable not by virtue of its lasting forever but by virtue of its being widely accepted as such. 861. Anything we see in the world that speaks of organization and technology, no matter how vast and complicated, is but an extension of what is to be found already in language, namely, its technical, organized nature. 862. Organization and technology are new languages carried over into and developed in the physical realm. 863. Language is plugged into the existing order. Change the order and you change the language, or vice versa. 864. When a despot's dominant idea fails, he falls. 865. There are extraordinary people who, in ordinary circumstances, seem rather ordinary. There are also people who, in extraordinary circumstances, make us ashamed to think we had ever considered them to be ordinary. 866. Health, a good reputation, and financial security may not be enough to satisfy us, but, if we lose them, we lose everything. 867. There is this saying, from the sublime to the ridiculous. What better way to describe sexual love as it goes from innocence to act, from the star-crossed lovers of Romeo and Juliet to the beast of two backs in Othello. 868. Any issue that is less than a life and death matter is guaranteed to burn itself out and leave a future generation wondering what the fuss was all about. 869. What makes bearable wearing an old and ugly face is the memory of the younger one thinks one still has somehow. 870. All thought, memory, and language are a constant retrieval of the past that allows the present to be as it is. 871. Perhaps it should come as no surprise that a number of people who are mediocrities in most ways end up with a show of moral superiority as their way. 872. Look at this great nation. While ever more refined in its moral sensibilities, its foreign policy is dropping ever more bombs. While there are many who no doubt see a problem here, there are also many who probably take a fatalistic view of things and secretly think, après moi, le déluge. 873. From the point of view of what yields the most profit or gets immediate political results, morality is not geared toward the sensible but the sensationalistic. 874. For only a select few does getting the whole truth and nothing but the truth matter. For the rest, whatever is said by one or more recognized authorities is generally sufficient. 875. Everything has its season except mother love. 876. The only time we become truly aware of how much each and every one of us is a born imitator is when a new habit or fashion springs up that, for some reason, doesn't take us in. 877. Social, political, and economic pressures being what they are, there are more than a few people who can either change their colors like a chameleon or point true north on the moral compass of self-interest. 878. A fair face can go far and even without lies lead us up the garden path. 879. The loveliness of spring and summer faithfully return but, alas, not the love of yesteryear. 880. The great advantage of writing fantasy nowadays is that it can be politically correct without being unprofitable. 881. A certain amount of success stiffens resolve, too much slackens it. 882. Generally speaking, if one wants to be happy in one's career as a great writer, artist, or thinker, one should envision having increasing degrees of success rather than starting off with a major one that can never be matched. 883. Some are keen observers of the outside world, some of other people's thoughts and opinions, some of the latest trends and fashions, and some of their very own thoughts and feelings. If all these come together, then it's likely that, with hard work and favorable circumstances, a great writer or artist is born. 884. The person who leads a virtuous life but says little about it makes a stronger impression than the one who merely talks about it. Unlike the latter, the former doesn't raise the suspicion that he may be an empty vessel. 885. Life may seem ordinary a good deal of the time, but even then it's still deeper than anything that might try to get to the bottom of it. 886. In the poem, The Second Coming, the line, "Things fall apart, the center cannot hold, mere anarchy is loosed upon the world," could be imagined as referring to a switch for gravity the devil can turn off. 887. What is language? Any language if not the longest-running project in human history, prehistory, and beyond. 888. So much of what we say or do is groupthink. It takes an exceptional action or event, sometimes called genius, to break us out of this. 889. For a careful thinker and observer, it's always surprising to see how many people are willing to draw conclusions based on limited information and questionable sources. It's almost as if they were afraid of being robbed of whatever authority they have by not showing themselves to be absolutely certain. 890. If there wasn't groupthink, there would be no order. If there were nothing but it, there would be no progress. 891. The modern-day ethic of keeping people alive as long as possible would surely end if a scarcity of resources became so acute as to lead to certain revisions in our moral thinking. 892. A. Have you noticed how many people there are nowadays who, while staring at their smartphones, cross the street like zombies? Is this a sign of the brave new world? B. Well, if so, it's all in the technology. The rest leaves something to be desired. 893. When not focused on some task or other, the mind is no more in our control than the weather. 894. How could anyone's ego, no matter how big, hold up very long if one took the world to be a colossus coming at it from all angles? 895. Moral principles, no matter what they may be, have always resisted serious investigation, as a moral or objective study, by making it immoral even to consider this possibility. 896. The dead play a vital role in the lives of the living, both materially and spiritually speaking. Indeed, the dead is so overwhelming that, were it not for the monuments and rituals, it would be written off and forgotten. 897. Technical knowledge and skill can be compared to a second language that one learns, be it driving a car, working on a computer, or playing a musical instrument. 898. As a swarm of busy flies to a dunghill are we to the earth, it nourishes us as creatures important first and foremost to ourselves. 899. The cornucopia of collective knowledge, while one may very well know more than anyone else in one particular area, there are at least a million others where, in each, millions of people know more. 900. Familiarity. Familiarity. If we exceed the dosage, we get bored. If we don't get enough, the signs range from mild discomfort to madness.